welcome. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you for listening. This is Joey. Let's get started. Well, before I get started, I want to give you guys a little bit of a personal anecdote. Thank you for all the people that have been tuning in and subscribing lately, by the way, too. I have seen a considerable jump in my following since that last video got banned. I know a lot of you are like, what video got banned? Oh, there was a doozy that came out that maybe about 17 of you got to hear, called Grape Kool-Aid, that YouTube shut on down immediately. So for those of you who know, you know. For those of you who are new, I thank you, and thank you for listening. And like I said, let's get rolling. So here's the anecdote. About 10, maybe 12 years back, I used to work a little day job here in the Pacific Northwest. And at the same time as I was working this day job, I was heavy into graphic design. That'll let you know the kind of era it was. It used to be called graphic design, right? And I was into graphic and web design, and I would create logos and websites and all kinds of animations and stuff like that for people and for companies for pretty decent prices. And I used to make pretty good money off of it. I went to school for it. You know, I had gotten degrees for it. I made sure to stay abreast of all of the latest skills and tools of the trade and whatnot. And I fancied myself a professional, right? But I was still working a 9-to-5 job. Now, one day, a lady from the HR department of this job, word had gotten back to her that I was a graphic designer, that's what I went to school for, you know, and the company who I had worked for at the time, they needed a new logo. So the woman, she comes up to me, and this is the key part of the story that has something to do with the rest of this little episode here. She comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, Joseph, I hear you sketch and doodle. I was wondering if you could work on a logo for us." And I looked at the woman and I said, "No, I don't sketch or doodle. I do graphic design. I could probably work a logo up for you. But yeah, I do graphic design work. I went to school for graphic design. I'm a graphic designer." "Yeah, that's what I said. I said you sketch or doodle." No, bitch. I'm a graphic designer." And I had to tell her, I said, "Ma'am, you work in the HR department, right?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "You're a Six Sigma professional, right?" "Yeah." "You went to school and you have a manager's degree, right? Like you have you have a master's in business management, correct?" "Yeah." I said, "Okay. So do you write the schedule?" "What? Do you write the schedule?" "No." "Do you stick around and keep an eye on people?" No. What are you saying?" "I'm saying you're not a goddamn camp counselor, are you? You're not a babysitter, are you? You're a professional. You went to school for this shit, right?" "Yeah." "Okay, then don't come at me like that." Now, the point of me telling you this story is that people will use language and words as a form of a mental game to get you to see things from their perspective in a real subtle way without you even noticing if you're not careful. And this is a key feature in politics. Before I can get you to agree with my ideology or my worldview, the sneakiest way for me to kind of infect you with my worldview and my perspective is to give you my language and my definitions and my terms of things. If I can get you to start using my terms and my definitions, I'm already getting you to see things from my perspective, and I'm already imposing my will. Let me give you an example. If you're over the age of 18, then you remember when the phrase for people that weren't supposed to be in the country or people who were in the country illegally was illegal alien. A person who was living in the country but was not considered a citizen was considered an alien. An alien as a phrase that means foreign to the system, right? Not extraterrestrial, but an alien. And somebody who was an alien by way of illegal means, i.e., sneaking into the country or purposefully or even accidentally letting their visa expire, therefore you're out of compliance, you have become an illegal alien. Both of those two words combined denote you don't belong here, right? You're already on borrowed time being an alien because you're not a citizen. And now you're in some sort of a violation. So you're an illegal alien. And that kind of language is self-explanatory. You already sound like a guilty person. You sound like somebody who's in violation. And it's very difficult for a person who is pro-immigration to have a sympathetic argument for a character with a title like that, right? It's like calling somebody the guilty party, and you can keep making arguments in favor of and defending the guilty party. But every time you mention their name, you have just admitted that that party is guilty. It's a very tricky thing, language is. So what do when you're in favor of immigration? You're fighting against deportations, allegedly. You need a kinder, gentler, softer name in the war of words to describe these people than illegal aliens, because every time you defend these illegal aliens, you're admitting that they are illegal and alien. Right? So it's like naming somebody a wife beater and then try to make the argument that, hey, man, Bill the wife beater isn't that bad. I mean, every time you say his name, you're admitting he beats his wife. So what do you do with something like that? Well, you stop making the illegal aliens illegal. Why do you do that? You just change their name. Now you change their name to something else they are that isn't as harsh of a title that doesn't admit any guilt. This person's not an illegal alien. Let's not admit the illegalities. Let's just say this person's undocumented. This person's not some foreign entity. Let's just say what they do. They come all the way here, but they work. So they're a worker. This person's not an illegal alien. This person's an undocumented worker. So now when I make an argument for an undocumented worker, I'm not automatically admitting guilt every time that this person's illegal. Same person, same group, same entity, same people. But now totally different title. And the argument is better. Now it just sounds like, well, they just need some documentation. They'll be fine and get back to work. They don't sound like someone who's done something illegal. Illegal that needs to be punished. Do you see what I'm saying? You see how just those adjustments of that title for that exact same person who does the exact same action, now your entire attitude towards what they do is different. The solution becomes different according to what problem I present to you. When I told you this nigga was illegal, of course the solution becomes, well, time for crime and punishment. When it becomes that he's just undocumented, well, now it's just a formality to document the poor guy so he can get back to work. This is politics. This is the little mind games that go into politics, the wording and the phrasing of situations in order to set your mind on it and how you should approach it mentally. Now let's apply this to different things, right? Let's apply this to different things. Let's use something that hits a little bit more near and dear to home, right? Let's break out the phrase that's been used that was created about 4 years, about closer to 8 years ago. About 4 to 8 years ago during Obama's first and second term. And this phrase is officer-involved shooting. This is a very good example right here because what this one does, what this phrasing does, is it completely absolves guilt from the actions and the people, right? Officer-involved shooting damn near sounds like the cop got shot. It sounds like an officer was involved. Like it's the most generic, nondescript, most what's the word I'm looking for? Sterilized definition of the term. It's almost the check engine light of descriptions, right? It doesn't say a cop shot a US citizen. It doesn't say, see, officer involved shooting sounds a whole lot more palatable than police brutality. Brutality sounds like crazed, unfettered, uncontrolled rage and violence towards somebody. And when people hear the word police, they think authority. So the phrase is police brutality used in combination sounds like authority run wild. That's what people hear when they hear the phrase police brutality. It sounds like bullying. It sounds like oppression. Police brutality. But officer involved shooting sounds like there's no telling where the blame could lie. Officer involved shooting sounds just like there was a shooting. We admit that. There was an officer somehow involved. But how those pieces all come together is anybody's guess. So let's not apply blame to a situation that we don't know all the details yet. Just that phrase alone can make you hesitate, right? It doesn't sound like something where there can be guilt applied to any side. It just sounds like, well, being a cop is a dangerous job, and every now and then there can be shootings, and this time there was one, and unfortunately an officer was involved, right? These are turns of phrases to make you think of things a certain way. They're telling you officer involved shooting or officer involved violence. Meanwhile, you see the video and it's just a cop shooting a nigga in the back. It's just a cop shooting some nigga in the back as he runs away. You could have been said cop shot a guy, right? This would have been police brutality moment, right? Officer involved death. They would have called George Floyd's murder an officer-involved death if that wasn't caught on camera. Ahmaud Arbery, where they chased the nigga down for jogging and shot him in cold blood on camera unprovoked. That was an officer-involved shooting. Somehow a cop got involved. There was a shooting. There was a cop involved somehow. Maybe he was telling him to break it up. Right? He was just sitting there, just on his patrol car, just minding his own business. Right? Right. And then two people were shooting each other and the cop was involved. It was an officer involved shooting. Which is funny because in events where the cop actually does get shot, they don't call that shit no officer involved shooting. You ever notice that? When Chris Monfort, I'm from the Pacific Northwest. Was it in 2009 or 2008? When Chris Monfort drove by and killed a cop in the Central while they were parked in their patrol car, right? He just rolled up and shot that nigga right in the cop car, right? Because they was beating this little girl. He did that shit as payback for them beating that little black girl. When he got caught, when there was a manhunt because he had shot and killed that police officer, they didn't call that shit no officer involved shooting, which is exactly what that was. There was an officer. There was a shooting, and somehow those two things came together, right? But they didn't call that an officer-involved shooting. There was no more play with the words. They called that a cop killer. They said there's a manhunt for a cop killer. Let's quit fucking around. When that black dude shot and killed them 4 cops in Lakewood, ironically at a donut shop, they didn't call that shit no officer-involved shooting. That shit was called, hey, man, there's a cop killer on the loose. There's a murderer on the loose. There was no being coy. There was no playing around with words. So if a shooting and an officer come together in the wrong combination, i.e. the cop gets shot, it's no longer an officer-involved shooting. Now it's a murder. Now it's an attempted murder. Like it is when a cop shoots and kills a citizen who's unarmed, who was running away because they knew they were going to get killed. Right? When you catch police on air say we only kill the black people. right? When you catch the police in Chicago saying on air, I kill niggas, right? You don't get those called officer involved shootings. Those are called fucking murders. So this is an example of what I'm talking about how the phrasing of something, how the language of some shit can be used to try to change your mindset even before you've even officially consciously changed your mindset. You've admitted to some shit. You don't even know what you've admitted to. You want another big example of how your perspective is played with simply by agreeing to use the terms and the phrases that your enemy is giving you without you even noticing? When's the last time you've been black politically, black people? When's the last time people have had to just say black people when dealing with problems that affect you? And black people when dealing with the people that you are? Well, with the black community, with black people, to deal with, how do you plan on dealing with the black issues? So black voters, right? When's the last time you've just been black, where the country has to engage with you as a black person? They got to deal with you as a black person. You've been political tofu for decades, where we always got to blend us in with other groups that are more palatable, right? You got your sitting senile U.S. president, your husk of a president, telling you on a hot mic, you people are going to have to start getting behind the Hispanics. And nobody questioned what the fuck that meant. Nobody stopped him at you people. No one stopped Joe Biden and said, hold on, Commandant Lassard. Nigga, who the fuck are you calling you? Hold on, Punky Brewster's dad. You don't get to be coming here talking about you people. Nigga, you were 4th, 5th in place in the primaries. You were on your way to being goddamn Amtrak Joe yet again. You've never won a primary without, but Hispanics, the ones you want us to get behind, was saying T.O. Bernie. They was rolling with Uncle Bernie. They wasn't fucking with you. You was persona non grata. You was losing to Kamala Harris. Think about that for a minute. She got no personality. You was losing to Sam Brownback. You was losing to Marianne Williamson. The only reason Joe Biden is sitting U.S. president now is, well, one, because he's part of the interior elite establishment, because he'll do whatever they want. But also, two, because black people provided him the appropriate political cover fire to bring him back for the dead in the primaries with his bitch ass. And now here you go up on a stage talking about black people are now third-class citizens, right? And everybody black, that shit flew right over our heads. That shit flew right over our heads. When's the last time you've been black instead of a person of color, instead of a minority, instead of disadvantaged groups, instead of non-binary? They almost trying to make black LGBTQ. They're almost trying to imply that you're like an alternative lifestyle group. No, nigga, you just Negroes. Negroes are some of the most conservative and non-suspecting, non-standout groups. And what I mean by that is we don't really demand that much. We really don't. We don't need pride weeks every week. We don't really demand that much. We just want to be left the fuck alone. That's the main thing niggas want. That's what we've wanted since we got to this country. Just to be left the fuck alone. We really don't ask for too much. But you can't even really just be black by definition, right? They have to find a way to make you more palatable and change people's perspective on any groups that involve you. So they got to sneak you in the servants' entrance with LGBTQ, women's rights, and all this bullshit. And you never get to get your plate of food. Now they're trying to make you what? Biopic or BIPOC or some shit. Making up terms and phrases that you don't even use and you don't even call yourself to lump you in with other groups of people you don't even culturally identify with, who don't identify with you or even want to associate with you. When you really think about it, these terms, BIPOC, people of color, oppressed people, minority, these are terms made up by white people to describe groups of people who don't get to be white. People of color. Like, what the hell does it? When I think of the phrase people of color, I think of like Rainbow Bright. It just sounds weird. People of color sounds like white folks are Gladys Knight and we all are like the Pips. That sounds like a racial version of like Josie and the Pussycats. Like, would you rather be Josie or would you rather be the Pussycats? Like the nondescript, generic, superfluous Pussycats. Like, hey, I'm in the band. What's the name of your band? Oh, Josie and the Pussycats. Oh, wow, are you Josie? No, who cares who you are, nigga? You ain't Josie. You one of the Pussycats. Like, you just one of the generic. It's white folks and the people of color. like you're either He-Man or you're one of the nondescript masters of the universe, right? Like, you don't get to be, you don't get a name. White folk get named out by special. Hey, man, it's white Americans. It's Americans. And who else? Oh, man, the people of color. The people of color. They don't even name your color. Next time somebody calls you a person of color, ask them which color. You'll never hear white folks get named people without color, right? You'll never hear like, let's think about it. There's as many quote unquote people of fucking color in the country as white folks. White folks are a dying breed. White folks are going to be Native Americans in 20 years, right? So you would think that the people that are less deep in the numbers, you would get the generic ass name. What if we just called them pale people or colorless people, right? That just sounds so nondescript. That just basically means non-white people. Just anybody who's not in the white group, just put them in the other of the people of color. You don't really realize how that mentally, subtly makes people that fall in the quote unquote people of color category sound so unimportant. And people who walk around, let's just be realistic. People who walk around proudly calling themselves a person of color, first of all, it's never really black folk. Black folk like being black. We understand people of color and shit. That's a trick, right? The people who usually walk around with no problems calling themselves a person of color are usually people who are ethnically questionable. And I mean people who you can't really tell what they are, but you know they're not white, and you know they're here in the country taking full advantage of their non-whiteness, right? There's some nondescript ethnic group. You can't tell if they're Puerto Rican, Arab, whatever, Mediterranean, something. They might be a mixed mash of something. They might have, they might also be LGBTQ. People now, to stay in the country, they hide behind a number of their little dual identities of non-whiteness to be able to stick around. You go to some immigrant, they know they can, I LGBTQ, I woman, and they know you can't really say shit to them if they just hide behind all those tags. So they just say whatever. They pretend like they're down for whatever protest and activists. They don't really give a shit. You say whatever you can to stay in the country, right? But if you're black, you're not really getting anything out of this new woke. Like, to be honest with you, even that phrase woke, let's use that phrase too, to give an example of how this is used to switch your mindset. Now, woke was a black people phrase originally. It was a phrase to denote people in the black community who had officially become self-aware, right? Like Skynet. You officially realized what this whole game has actually been. And once you become self-aware or awakened or awoke, once you become awoke, now your attitude and your mindset and your actions are going to change, right? Adam and Eve became woke. Once they ate from the tree of knowledge, they realized, they became self-aware and realized they were naked, right? That in of itself wasn't the sin. The sin was not doing, the sin was defying God by eating the damn apple in the first place. That was the sin, right? But the subsequent reaction from having committed the sin, becoming full of knowledge, that in and of itself wasn't evil. That was them simply becoming awoke. They became woke. Oh God, I'm naked. God coming back and seeing that they realize that they are naked, and to have such embarrassment as nudity, that's when he was telling them, okay, that's how I know you ate the shit. Like, what are you doing? That's how I know you ate the apples. You weren't ready for that yet. That's woke. It's simply becoming self-aware, right? But look how the phrase is being used once it gets into those white hands, right? Now woke is being recategorized with being annoying, right? It's become this thing that means person that won't get along with others. Person that's being this annoying activist that just keeps being pesky and pointing out these things that aren't true. That you see how woke got turned into this affectation. It got turned into this woke got turned into a fun activity that you do that's not of real substance. It's throwing a tantrum. I'm noticing, see, woke got away from black people. Once the message gets away from black people, the message is intentionally distorted and dissolved into the dominant society. The meaning is lost. You can be Colin Kaepernick and you could be taking a knee to stand up against police brutality. You could be taking a knee to raise awareness against police brutality, not officer involved shootings, police brutality against black people. That could be the meaning of the symbol of you taking a knee. And then by week 10 of the NFL season, when you got white folks taking a knee, they're taking the knee to be able to co-opt the momentum. I saw I think it was week 8 or week 10 of the NFL season at the time when Kaepernick was still in the NFL and he was taking a knee and everybody was taking a knee. Remember, there was the white Star Spangled, there was the white national anthem singer that was taking a knee. But remember, she was taking a knee against like animal cruelty. Or Jerry Jones taking a knee with the team and shit. So you're against police brutality, but then the next week you're coming out saying you niggas better not kneel, right? You just did that for the photo op, Jerry Jones. You had all these white celebrities out there taking knees, but what they kept making sure to say is they would say the reason why they were taking a knee. And they were doing that to let you know, I'm not taking a knee for police brutality. I'm taking a knee for women's work compensation. I'm taking a knee for LGBTQ rights. I'm taking a knee to end the war in Iraq, right? Everybody had a different reason when they were white to take the knee. And what that did was that was to remove the symbolism from the knee. That was to show you, that was to make it so when you saw people taking a knee, see, the whole point of symbolism is messages. It's communication. If I tell you I'm taking a knee to stand up against police brutality, I'm Colin Kaepernick. I got this big ass platform. And when you see me taking a knee in the NFL during the Star Spangled Banner, that symbol is for police brutality. If I tell you that, then that's the message that I'm trying to communicate. So when you see my brethren out here on this football field with a knee, I don't got to say shit. You know we're talking about police brutality. It's going to spread awareness for police brutality. And then whenever you see people taking knees or people saying they stand up with Colin Kaepernick or people rocking Kaepernick jerseys, you know what that symbolism is about. Now, if I want to disrupt that symbolism, that's where I have people come in and say, no, the knee is not synonymous with standing up for police brutality. The knee is also about animal cruelty. The knee is also about LGBTQ rights. The knee is also about women's equal pay. The knee is also about Occupy Wall Street. Now, when I start throwing all those different messages, all those different words into it, I'm ruining the message. That was the intent when you had all these different white folks coming in and taking a knee for into your own ain't got shit to do with police brutality cause here. People didn't catch that. People didn't catch that, but it changed the perspective real slightly on what taking a knee was about. Overnight, taking a knee and the whole issue of the Star Spangled Banner became taking a knee for the sake of taking a knee. They had removed the meaning from it. And that right there, people didn't notice it, but that right there was the beginning of the end for that movement. That was the beginning of the end for that movement. They had already made it about, they had already successfully made it about the national anthem. And it wasn't about police brutality. They had already did it like that. The media had already made big effort to focus on the national anthem perspective rather than the reason why they're kneeling in the first place, right? But Colin Kaepernick's persistence pushed through. So when they couldn't distract with the whole national anthem thing to change the subject from police brutality, now they had to switch it to, well, I'm taking a knee for, lesbian relationships in Texas. I'm taking a knee for Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I'm taking a knee so that we can have more vegan options in the schools, right? It was, I can't get rid of this symbolism. So all we can do is take away the meaning of the symbol. Change your perspective on something with a title. Change your perspective on something with a phrase. Change your perspective on something by changing the meaning of the symbol. Change the meaning, change the message, right? Now when you see an NFL player take a knee, you don't even know what that means anymore. And neither does the player. So they don't do it anymore. That's how it's been disrupted. Let's look at a few more examples. I'm seeing what my dear mother would refer to as a scam that we would call a whoop bam boogie being rung up on black people right now. I'm seeing when it comes to immigration in this country, what often happens is that black people are told that immigration is a black issue as well. And what we're being told by appointed black lackeys is that you weren't a slave, little nigger. You were a forced immigrant. This is trying to change your mindset on the history of this country and make it sound like, now we're about to get into the nitty gritty of what I wanted to talk about, and make it sound like your journey and your struggle and your history in this country is tied to the fate of immigrants. And I want to use this episode tonight to show you that your fate and your destiny and your story in this country is so opposite of an immigrant tale that it's not even funny. You see, I use those examples of how phrases and language and titles and terms in politics can be used to try to change perspective and mindset, all so that we could get to this bullshit phrase that we hear about this being an immigrant nation and how immigrants built the country. And I really want ADOS. I really want FBA. I really want Americans of Descendant Chattel Slavery. Shout out to Saren Sensei. I really want Black Americans in general to start pushing back on that false narrative. Whenever they say that out loud, I want Black people to understand that that's a direct insult to Black people, to Black Americans. That's a direct insult. There are certain things that white folks will not let stand when it comes to maintaining their lies on history, right? They're not going to let you lie about the Alamo. You know what I'm saying? White folks ain't going to let you lie about the damn Alamo. They're not going to let you tell the truth about the Alamo either. White folks are going to stand tall on certain stories that are big on their history. But Black people, we don't, because we're not really taught our history, and we're not really taught our history with a certain perspective. When we're taught our history, we're just kind of told some things that happened, right? Oh, yeah, we kind of held a couple of y'all hostage a little bit, made y'all work a little bit, my bad. You know what I'm saying? We don't really get told perspective on the effects of stuff like that. And we're never really told the big picture that you built the goddamn country. You know, it's a real simple question. I like to ask immigrants, whenever immigrants argue with me that they built America. I ask a very, very simple question. Hey, if immigrants built America, when you immigrated to America, when your ancestor, whoever started your line here in America, when they immigrated to America, was America called America? Was there a president? So you came here on a work visa, right? You came here. When you came here, was there a here? There was a president. There was a Star Spangled Banner and shit. There was a flag, everything. Okay, you didn't build shit. You came to an already established country that recruited you for some work to do. Let's just be honest about that. You didn't build shit, immigrant. And I mean that as every form of immigrant. To you new booty Africans and you Latinos, back to you Italians, to Irish, to all you niggas. The Welsh, not a one of you niggas built a goddamn thing. Not one. You couldn't even compete with niggas. Couldn't even hope to compete with niggas. White people, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, who were well established in this already established country when you brought your funky asses here, they didn't even want to hire you bitches because they had slaves already. Like, this is just common sense, basic math. How much would you want to pay a worker if you had a better worker that worked for free? I'll wait. Like, how much would you pay Gunther, who just came off a boat? He barely speaks the King's English. He doesn't have that good of skills, but he came here because he heard the streets are paved with fucking gold and all that bullshit, right? His war-torn, goddamn potato-famined country. He came over here, right? Looking to come up. But you've already got Leroy over there. He's 6'5". He works faster, works harder. He doesn't take any breaks because he doesn't have the option to. And when Leroy dies, you can just have Leroy's son come work for you for the exact same amount of free. Who are you going to hire? Exactly. So immigrants have always been adversarial to Black Americans in this country. It's time we finally say that. They've always been diametrically opposed to us because we're in direct competition. We're in their way. They're coming here to work for money. We happen to be niggas who work for free. Us working for free makes it very difficult for an immigrant to come earn money. So immigrants have always seen black people in this country as something that's in their way, not something that they can, you know, be soul brothers and tied and we're brothers in arms. No, no group of immigrants ever in the history of this country has ever looked at black people as anything other than competition or a roadblock. For the reason I just gave you. There has never been any group of immigrants of any ethnic group that have ever come into this country and one, not known full well what's happening to black people. It's not like they hide the niggers in the back when the immigrants come to America, right? It's not, quick, put the whips away. Put the whips away. Put the whips away, man. The Irish are coming. We don't want them to think we're mean to black people. No. You know what's ironic? You know who did do that as a country? Germany. I like to point this out just to let people know how messed up America can be historically to black people. Nazi goddamn Germany at the height of Nazism, right? During the 1940s in the Olympic Games, there were black people coming to Nazi Germany. And do you know what Nazi Germany did during the Olympic Games when they knew other groups of people who they don't like were coming over for dinner for a little bit? They managed to clean up their act. They went to all the Jews. Okay, we're not going to be hurting anybody for a while. Just be on good behavior. Everybody be on good behavior. The Negroes are coming to play. Just be good. Horrible German accent, but, I watch Maxwell Smart. But, they were able to be on their best behavior for a few days during the Olympic Games. They were talking through bare teeth, and they were trying very hard to hold it together, but they did. They held it together so well that niggas who was over in Germany was like, damn, we getting treated better in Nazi Germany than America. That's how niggas who was in the Olympic Games felt during the 1940s Olympic Games in Nazi Germany with Hitler standing right there. Because even the Nazis understood, well, we can't be, just ravenous and in the open just yet. Let's bide our time. But America, nigga, it's this time all the time. So let's look at this real quick. There's never been a point in this country's history where any group of immigrants of any ethnicity have ever come to this country and not known full well what was happening to niggas. Number one, right? And there's never been a point in this nation's history where these immigrants of any ethnicity, having full and well known what's going on to niggas in this country, there's never been a point in this nation's history where any of these immigrant ethnic groups have sided with blacks, stood up for blacks, or even in the slightest way expressed displeasure at what's happening to the blacks in this country. And then, just to add a nice little maraschino cherry on top of all this fuckery, not only that, but the few times that immigrants of any ethnic group have ever taken anything that resembles a stand in this country with regards to black people, it has always been adamantly against the black people. Irish immigrants came to this country with their funky asses, fresh off a potato famine. And who did they riot against when they were forced to be drafted into the military? Because America was like, all right, Irish, you guys don't really have a use. We tried to bring you guys in here for workers, but you guys are all a bunch of drunkards and you guys can't do shit. You can't keep up with the black folks. You don't work as good as the Negroes. This is on record. You can't work outside. You keep getting burned up by the sun and shit. You can't stand outside in the sun on Earth. That's weird. This is why we call you rednecks. Oh yeah, that's where the phrase redneck comes from. It comes from Irish immigrants who couldn't stand in the sun and do the work. So since you guys can't really do anything useful, I mean, we do need soldiers. Y'all are violent. So why don't you guys join the army? We're going to draft you. Rather than just be drafted and make themselves useful finally, the Irish immigrants, they rioted. But they didn't riot against, the people that were trying to tell you to join the draft. They didn't riot against the white folks, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants who were established in the country that had the power to make you join the draft. No, they went to all the black neighborhoods, to the black people that had been sweet to them and had been the welcoming wagon to them, because black folks are always the welcoming wagon in the country, right? You always get put next to the black folks when you first start in this country. Black folks who had been nothing but sweet and nice to these punk ass Irish immigrants, they started a riot with the black people. Think about how nonsensical that shit is. Think about how nonsensical that shit is. You come to the country and the people who let you come to the country tell you you got to go join the army. So you going to throw a temper tantrum by killing the slaves. They ain't do shit to you. Now, the reason why they attacked the black people randomly was because they were trying to say you should make the niggers join your army. The Irish immigrants who had just gotten here, who didn't have a single discernible skill to behold, right, came here with their entitled, funky river dancing asses and assumed that black people who were just on the cusp of getting free and finally getting paid for their work should move over for them so that they can come in the country and establish themselves. That's the entitlement of the immigrant that comes to America. That's what they assume. So they came all the way over here and caused violence on us. The Irish immigrant did. They caused violence on us. Now let's move to the next immigrant, the Italian immigrant. See, I'm going after these two groups first because they're white folks that when shit gets bad to be white, the first thing they come out and say is, I'm Irish or Italian, as if that's a get out of jail free card for white supremacy. And I like to be the one who knows this shit and go, oh, no. You niggas got special violations with us. You got special post-slavery white violations with us because this is how you got to get into the white group. See, Irish and Italians, they used to not even be considered white. And they like to try to play on that history like, oh, I'm not white, I'm Italian. No, you niggas, y'all didn't start off white. Y'all wasn't born into whiteness like Bane, but you niggas learned how to be adopted by it. Y'all niggas got initiated. Y'all got jumped in. You guys became made men with the white folks. And how y'all got in was by shitting on black people. It's time we tell the truth. It's time we tell the truth because, and here's the messed up part about it. These same immigrant groups will admit, this is the messed up part about it. They'll admit, and this is why I say I don't respect immigrants because, see, when you come in as part of this country and you voluntarily come into this, you're on some devil shit because you know this whole thing's demonic and you're voluntarily taking place in it to get a couple of dollars, right? You know this is a country where they basically sacrifice black people and you willingly came over here in the land of sacrificing black people so you could get a buck or two. That's some demonic shit. If you're Italian and you immigrated over here, like I said, this is the real sad part. If you listen to the memoirs of Italian immigrants, of Irish immigrants, of how they first came to the country, how to make it in America type of shit, and you hear how horribly they were treated by the established white Anglo-Saxon Protestants of the country, right? And then you hear them often say, the one group of people that were nice to us was the Negroes. That's the sad part about it. When you hear these immigrant tales, everybody says the only people who were nice to us were the black people. The only person that gives you a welcoming, lending hand is the niggas. And the first thing you all do every time when you want to become white is you start attacking and killing and harming and maiming and humiliating the niggas. All you Italians that came over here that used to be called all kinds of wops and guineas and shit by white folks. And the second they let y'all niggas join the police force, look what y'all do to black folks. A lot of people don't talk about the fact that, the mobs and shit, the Italian mobs, when they first got started, they started a lot of that shit in the black side of town. They weren't allowed to establish themselves with no white folk. They couldn't even get into white circles like that at first. They didn't even get to live. Like, think about this, black people, and because this isn't nothing new. Look at the Arabs, look at the Asians. Look where they have to start up shop when they first come to this country. What do you think they had the Irish and Italians doing when they first got here? In America, the black side of town is like level 1 grassland in goddamn Super Mario Brothers 3. It's the first place you're going to start. It's the easiest spot. You're going to set up shop in the hood. You ain't got $1 to your name. You just came here fresh from snitching on your home country. Welcome to America. We're going to put you in the ghetto. Ain't no competition. Yeah, it's a little rough, but they going to keep coming to your little funky ass corner store and buying your janky ass halal meat and your hot Cheetos and your Marlboro cigarettes 100s in a box. They're going to keep buying your bullshit. You have no competition for miles. It's just your quickie mart, Apu. You can do whatever you want to do to these people. You can charge whatever you want. You can bring in expired food. You can be a slumlord. And you can come up. It's like coming to America, they give you a free trap house. Immigrants come here because they're alternatives to slaves. They help drive wages down. They'll accept all kinds of abuse on the workforce, which makes it difficult for citizens to complain about shit. And we use the wrong words to describe them. See, even if you were going to take the phrase alien out of it, let's just say somebody was an American citizen, right? Undocumented worker still ain't the right phrase, because think about it. Let's take a situation like a strike, for example. You got a classic TV strike at the plant, right? You got a bunch of niggas outside with picket signs and shit at the picket line. What do you call the person who has not worked with the company that the company calls in to work on its behalf during a strike? The people that, quote unquote, cross the picket line. What do you call those people? Those people used to be called scabs. You were called a scab because you were there to temporarily cover over the wound of the strike, right? You got people striking outside. The company is wounded because it can't be productive. And here you come as a temporary fix that won't stand up for yourself, that'll accept the unacceptable conditions that the workers won't take, and you'll come in and be a cover over for a minute, a scab. You're not documented to work there, right? Oftentimes, scabs work off the books. So you're an undocumented worker. Who would be the perfect scabs to come in and do a job if American citizens feel like the pay is too low, or if American citizens feel like the work environment is too dangerous, or if American citizens feel like the quotas being asked of them aren't reasonable and realistic? Who would be the most likely person to come in, accept any terms on that job because where they come from, they make $1 a day, and there's no running water? Who would be the perfect person that would come in and be a scab, that wouldn't be on record, that could disappear in the middle of the night, that'll accept anything and accept damn near any pay? It would be a freaking illegal alien.
Let's not pretend like we don't see these niggas waiting around Lowe's parking lots to go get a job. Let's not pretend like we don't see them on construction sites. Like we don't see them driving Uber. Like we don't see them doing food delivery, watching people's kids. White folks love having undocumented workers around because it reminds them of the good old days. It reminds them of the good old days where you could chuck Consuela a funny 20 and tell her to watch your kids for 2 weeks. And what choice did she have, right? You used to be able to do that to niggas, right? You used to be able to have the help come clean your house. It will be some black person. It will be somebody's grandmother taking a bus into the white side of town. You know how the shit, and they loved that. They loved having a nigger clean their, oh, I still got these niggers under my feet. Oh, this is wonderful. I'm done. She's the cleaning lady, and they're snickering and shit. They love having your fucking relative out there cleaning their toilets and shit, calling your relative auntie and shit like that. Hey man, older black folks, when they heard that Auntie Maxine shit, this is how you know. This is how you know. It's just a quick side note. This is how you know that black people that are in the Democratic Party are some coons. I ain't never, ever, ever heard no self-respecting black person in modern times be cool with no white folks calling no older black woman no goddamn auntie. Auntie Maxine. It was some cute shit with a few black people saying some, every now and then on TV, on Good Morning America, on MSNBC. When there's a couple of black folks around, we can kind of throw out a little wink and a nod inside joke for the culture. That's fine, right? I'm totally cool with that. I get it. Helps the day go by smoother, yada, 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 right? But when you start doing some shit to where you make them so comfortable, you make white folks so comfortable around you that they're chiming in with Auntie Maxine. No, nigga, that's not cool. That's like, I wouldn't say the N word at my job, right? It might be other black folks around me. I might, if the N word slipped out my mouth or something like that, I wouldn't be so loosely using that phrase to where a white person feel comfortable saying that shit around me. Now it's in the air. Now we got to pull this nigga to the side and tell him that's our word and shit. And, hey, man, look. So rather than do that, I'm not even going to put you in that position because they're always looking for, a backdoor access to blackness. Don't be calling that black woman no goddamn Auntie Maxine in front of white folks like that. Real black folks know. Real black folks cringe whenever they see them say that shit. But getting back to business, we got to divorce this language that keeps trying to marry black history and immigration because they have nothing to do with not only do they have nothing to do with each other, but I'm giving you this game to point out that they're actually opposed to one another. Right after you had the 1960s Civil Rights Acts. 1964, you had the Civil Rights Act. 1965, you had the Immigration Act. They literally just switched it up and said, all right, fine, we'll bring in some new slaves. Since y'all don't want to slave it no more. Y'all think y'all too good to slave. We'll bring in some new slaves. And they'll be happy to clean these houses. They'll be happy to pick these berries. They'll be happy to do this illegal construction work. And you know how we'll make them happy? We'll keep messing up their countries to where they have to flee their countries and come here and do this shit. That's the hustle. Y'all know that, right? We go down to Central America. We go down to Mexico. We go down to South America. And we just work up a number 6 on them countries. We get to whomping and stomping, raving and rooting anything that's not locked down, raping the women, making horrible sex trafficking situations for the kids and shit like that. And then when they're fleeing their countries in the dead of night and going the only direction they can go, which is America, then we come up and look like Mother Teresa. It's really a cold game that we play. It's like we're shaking the tree to make the fruit fall. We're not picking the fruit.
But because you keep getting told these individual groups' sob stories, and many of them may be sad, right? You have, as a black person, as a sweet black person who's been treated the worst in this country, and because of that, you've adopted this mama bird mindset for every other group that might get mistreated, which is admirable, but messes you up, right? Because of that, you have this misguided understanding that these people are kindred spirits, that you think that they think like you think. Like, hey, you're being mistreated and I'm being mistreated. We should work together. But what you fail to understand as a black American, this is what black Americans don't understand. And this is going to sound like I'm going way off base, but I promise you I'm going to bring this home. Black Americans don't understand that they are Cinderella. See, this is something about the Cinderella story I didn't understand as a kid. You know, the girl with the glass slipper and shit. She had the 3 stepsisters and the stepmother that was hating on her. Remember, the stepsisters and the stepmother was hating on Cinderella before she ever got the new outfit and got the glass slippers. They was hating on her from day one. The stepsisters and the stepmother didn't want Cinderella to go to the ball from day one. And what does that mean? That means the stepsisters and the stepmother. See, this is something that people never think about Cinderella. The fairy godmother came in and gave her a nice coach, a little car to ride around in, a nice outfit, a glass slipper. Fairy godmother never said, bitch, I'm going to change your face. I'm going to fix your face up. I'm going to make your body look right. Translation, Cinderella was always fine, and her stepsisters and her stepmother knew that shit. Cinderella didn't know that shit. That's the real story of Cinderella. Cinderella never knew her value, but the people around her, them hating ass hoes, knew her value. That's why off top, they were like, bitch, you ain't going to the ball. You kidding me? You go to the ball, ain't nobody looking at our ugly asses. You ain't going to no ball. They was trying to keep her star player down, so she never realized I'm the baddest bitch in this group. It wasn't until she got out to the ball on her own. You notice when Cinderella got out to the ball on her own and they didn't know that was her, even they was like, oh, who's that? So I say all that to say this with black folks. You think that you're some sort of a kindred spirit with immigrants. You think that you're some sort of a kindred spirit, black women, with white women, with feminism. You think, black gays, that you're some sort of a kindred spirit that could escape hatch from your blackness by becoming a gay unicorn, right? You think if I look harmless enough and I roll in with this new group that seems to have a lot of political power, that I can slip in and escape this nigga shit. But what all of you don't realize is that black, and this is what every other group knows, runs all the other groups. Blackness runs all the other groups. All these other groups depend on a black groundswell of black voters to be able to get all the shit they want off their little wish list. No black voters back in the Democratic Party, no LGBTQ rights. All that shit goes away. No black women backing the feminist movement. All that shit goes away. Look at it. White women can't even keep abortion on the list without black women. Look at that shit. Correct me if I'm wrong. Everybody seems to forget this, but this proves my point. When Donald Trump first got elected, what did white folks do for black people? I remember seeing verbatim white Democratic leaders, white Democratic groups saying, at times like this is where we need to get behind and respect the strength of black women. They literally hid behind your motherfucking ass. Didn't do shit. And what was the symbol that white folks gave black folks as an apology and a sign of solidarity when Trump first got elected? This is a pop quiz. I want to see if anybody remembers this shit.
I'm gonna pause. If you could pause this and type in the comments, man, I swear to God, like who remembers the symbol, the empty fucking symbol that they gave to black folks to show solidarity? I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna give it like 10 seconds. Liberal white Americans, in quite possibly one of the most empty gestures of solidarity I've ever seen. After the Trump election, when they knew they looked bad, that the country had picked who they had said was the most racist person on the planet, white liberals started walking around this country with goddamn safety pins. I know as soon as I said safety pins, a lot of y'all go, oh, I remember that bullshit. Safety pins. Remember that shit? And black folks started roasting them because that was the corniest, emptiest, most non-gesture you could do. That's almost like walking out in the street, seeing your best friend get his ass beat by two people, and you walk by as you're getting in your car to warm up your engine, and you just give him that little half effort, little black fist solidarity symbol, like, hey, brother, I'm in there with you. I'm in there, man. Stay strong. He over there getting put in rear naked chokes and shit. He's about to pass out. And you're just, the frost, the defrost on my rear mirror. I'd get out to help, man, but I had a cup of coffee in my hand. Soul glow ass nigga. Like, that was the kind of empty non-help that was coming from your liberal white friends. It was a goddamn safety pin. And that lets you know they see you as a crash test dummy. They see you, black people, as a person that's supposed to go in there and take all the lumps, take all the hits, and then after your body is mangled up and you done taken everything, then they come in and grab the flag. They come in and grab the prize. And then they say, we did it. We did it. That's the trick. Now, getting back to black folks being Cinderella. Black folks, you are the only people in the country with a reasonable, justified argument for your existence. No one can tell you you don't belong here. Not even the Native American. Even Native American Indians have to hold their head down in shame for what they've done to you. You saved the Native American Indians from genocide on a number of occasions. You saved them. And they sold you out. They enslaved you too. They were the last ones to give up black slaves. They sold you out and put white folks on the Dawes rolls to be Native American Indians and neglected the fact that a lot of Native American Indians was black folk. They sold you out. So even Native American Indians hold their head in shame when it comes to what happened to black people in the country. We're the moral, fuck it. I'll go as far as say we're the soul of the country. We're the only moral people in America. We're the only people in America with morals and a soul. That's something you got to always remember. America is an evil, demonic place. Like, let's just back up for a minute. I know a lot of people hear that. America's a place of freedom and what bullshit. America was created on blood sacrifice and takeover, on enslavement and oppression, on torture, on human sacrifice, on demonic worship. All our symbols are demonic. The pentagon, pentagram, all that shit, obelisk and all this, all kinds of weird demonic shit was America built on. And not only that, but evil beliefs and practices of exploitation, of murder, of rape, of incest, of taking over people's land, all this shit. And you immigrants, knowing all of this, said that sounds like a great place to go because there's money there, right? So you immigrants all willingly took part in this demonic shit and helped empower this demonic shit. And the only people on the whole planet that keep this demonic place in check, that have always made it have to be better and not be as demonic. The only group of people that stand up is black people. Nobody else. There's not even a close second. The only people in the world, Craig, the world that stand up is black Americans. That's it. Any rule, every single rule in the rule book of the Constitution of every amendment that's worth a tinker's damn was fought for by niggas and nobody else. Nobody else stood up. This is why white folks get so mad about critical race theory that just flat out says these white folks didn't come around because they saw the light. They got forced by black folks to do better. Didn't nobody help? See, everybody wants to say they stood with King after the shit looks like it's over. Everybody wants to say, oh, nigga, I was right in the scrap with the shit when the shit's over. When the coast is clear. Everybody came along when the coast is clear. But when the shit was going down, it was niggas and niggas alone. Niggas and niggas alone. That was it. All the good, the entire concept, this is something we don't take any credit for, black people. The entire concept of freedom and equality in the richest, most powerful nation in the world was created by niggers. Just the simple concept of, hey, maybe we shouldn't enslave people was created by niggas. The thing that everybody enjoyed, the whole concept of equality, right? That gays walk up and down the street and act like they invented, and that white women walk up and down the street acting like they invented. The entire concept of treating somebody that's not you with the same respect that you want to be treated with. The entire concept of, hey, maybe this other group of people shouldn't be treated as second-class citizens just because they're other. That entire thought and ideology is a black thing. Niggas invented that. Niggas. The entire concept of fairness in the country, invented by black people. Invented by black folks. You should be very, very proud of the fact that really, basically, the only thing that makes this country shit is black people. Full stop. You're so morally superior, right? You're so morally superior that when you won the Civil War, and make no mistake about it, you won the Civil War. You won it. 100,000 man Negro surge turned the tide of the Civil War. And they can never change that. That's why they did. That's why they have Civil War reenactments and shit to try to deny that shit. That's why if you ever ask a Civil War historian who's lying, ask them how the war. You ever notice that when they talk about the Civil War, they always go into great detail about the romanticism? It was brother against brother. When we talk about Gettysburg, the Battle of New Orleans, right? Actually, I think the Battle of New Orleans was American Revolution. But, they go into great detail about the romanticism of the Civil War, right? But things start to always trail off when you ask them how it ended. How the Civil War ended never really makes sense, how they explain it. There's never really like a big final battle. There's never really a clever move that points out, oh, this is how they got outmaneuvered. The reason being is because the real way the Civil War ended, the North was getting its ass handed to them. The North wasn't a big, powerful, all-powerful military regime like that back then. You got to think of the North. You got to think of the fact that all the real military bases and the military schools, really even to this day, were in the South. The South was tasked with having to keep the niggers in line and be muscled up and ready to take on any kind of Negro uprisings. Not the North. You got to think of the North more like at the time, the Federalists. This was the Pony Express and the feds collecting taxes on people. They weren't really ready for a full-scale internal conflict like it was, which is why they tried to avoid it for so long like they did. But when it finally went down, how it really ended with the Civil War was 100,000 Negro surge for the North. Black men saw this and, hey, man, look, y'all fighting this slave shit. We'll help you. That's why when you have General Sherman going into the South with his scorched earth policy, a lot of those soldiers that was in there dealing out that pain, those were black soldiers burning down Georgia. Something that caused a lot more animosity with the South and the blacks back then was the fact that they had black soldiers occupying the South when they won. That's how they won, was black soldiers. Niggas won the Civil War. That's why it's funny whenever you hear white folks trying to pull the whip bam boogie on you niggas by saying, we already gave you reparations, we fought the Civil War. No, if you knew your history, you'd be able to tell them, no, nigga, you owe us double. One for reparations and one for reward for saving your punk asses. You didn't fight to save us from no goddamn Civil War. Are you kidding me? Y'all really believe that bullshit? Like they walked up on the South, like the South was Biff in the car and said, hey, you, get your damn hands off that Negro. Like, no, the North didn't do that shit. Abraham Lincoln himself said, if I could stop this war without ending slavery, I would. They didn't want the South to secede. The slavery was making all the money. This had nothing to do with wanting to end slavery on some sort of a moral platform. No. We ended slavery. We took advantage of all the chaos and we chose a side. And we put the North, that had no chance of beating the South without our assistance, we put the North over the top. All this lost cause shit was made up by the South to make the North look like this imposing force to explain why they lost. The South had the advantage, and they got their asses kicked because of black people. But they don't tell us this shit so that we walk around thinking that we're free, quote unquote, because white folks just decided to be nice to us. That's what the average black person thinks. You know that, right? The average black person thinks that the progression that you enjoy, the progress that you enjoy today, comes from white folks just being benign and sweet and finally seeing the light, instead of you putting a foot in their ass for hundreds of years. The average black person don't even know about the Holy Week riot after MLK got killed, and don't realize that that's the reason why civil rights got put through. People act like Martin Luther King was there to sign the civil rights bill or some shit. Like he wasn't, he was dead by then. They had killed him. So keep in mind, man, this entire political circus gets to go on our credit card. America uses black people like a credit card. All the money that it was supposed to pay up to black people for all the wrong that it had done to us since the creation of the country, that helped create the country, fuck helped create. That was the sole reason why the country exists, right? When you hear about the Civil War and you hear about the South arguing with the North, they're arguing over our money. That's something that you have to understand as a black person. When I was talking about how they've changed your perspective on things and got you to think about different things that you should be thinking about, you're not thinking about the Civil War being a money discussion, a money dispute over your stolen wealth, your stolen labor. They're deciding how they're going to spend your motherfucking money. And then after that war was over, you never got that money. This country's been absorbing the wealth from you from the day you got here through insurance companies, through hospitals, through medical experiments, through colleges. All Ivy League colleges are built off of slavery, through eminent domain and stealing land, through fucking slavery, through convict leasing and institutionalized prison systems. All this stuff has been stealing money and wealth from you as a people. We won't even get into the health aspects and all the environmental racism and putting you in the areas of the slums where all the chemicals are and all the factories are, right? All the dump off, even up to and including literal nuclear waste. All this stuff that's being done to you that are crimes against not just hate crimes, crimes against humanity. And in some cases, keeping it real, in some cases, even lowball considered borderline war crimes. Yes, you've had the UN come to some of your cities and say these cities look worse than third world countries. Worst. No hyperbole. So when you say all of this and you hear things like the Civil War, right? You understand now that they're talking about your stolen wealth. Do you know what else is a discussion right in your face about your stolen wealth, my nigga? Immigration. Immigration. You never got paid your money, but they're taking this money. Where do you think this money comes from? You never got paid your reparations money. You never even got paid a single settlement check, right? People like to talk about, oh, you weren't enslaved. You weren't enslaved. But you had real slaves up until the 1960s. You didn't pay them niggas. You had real, just got freed from a plantation slaves in the 1960s in America that you didn't pay these niggas one dime. But you weren't enslaved. So save me that you weren't enslaved message, because it's not like you've ever paid one actual slave, right? You got that woman, you got that poor woman that to this day can still recall what happened during the Black Wall Street riots, right? And they got that woman up there talking at 110 something years old, and they still won't pay that woman a dime in money. And the second that woman dies, the second that she passes away, they'll deny that it ever happened, because she'll be the last person that remembers it. This is the same country that pays out Japanese internment camp money, that pays out Jewish Holocaust money, that's making an argument for gays to get gay reparations. I'm dead ass serious. That's making an argument for Hispanic dreamers to get reparations. I'm dead ass serious. But you got this 100-and-something-year-old lady that was a victim of the Tulsa, Oklahoma riots, and they're still denying that shit ever happened. To this day. Till this day, they're still denying that shit. But they got your goddamn ancestors' wealth locked up in this country that they use as a credit card. I call it the African American Express card that they use as a free ride for every goddamn immigrant that wants to come to this country that you can think of. Every time you hear about an immigrant living in this country that don't got to pay taxes on their business for 7 years, that shit comes to you by way of your ancestors. They got your ancestors paying for that shit. Whenever you hear about immigrants like the Afghan immigrants coming to this country and they're getting put in housing in Texas and Virginia, no questions asked, and they're getting flown first class from Afghan over here, and they're going to be getting put up on jobs, and they're going to be getting put up on resources, all that shit comes from the money they never paid your people. They took all that wealth. Remember, money is just like energy. It can't be destroyed. It can only be transferred. The day slavery, quote unquote, ended, i.e. got transferred to convict leasing and mass incarceration, the day that slavery, quote unquote, ended, all the slave owners and all the slave houses didn't get absorbed into thin air like the goddamn poltergeist house. That's not what happened. In fact, Many slave owners got paid reparations. In fact, many slave owners got their whole operations back within months. The same people in charge of cotton today was in charge of cotton back then. And in many cases, they have the same practices. All you got to do is switch slave to indentured servant or forced worker. Half these people are still working for these same companies from prison. Surprise, right? So when you hear about all your stolen wealth, that shit's not some distant, gone off into some distant land. That shit's getting used today. That's what brings immigrants in. It's your slave credit card, the shackle card. They pay and sponsor immigrants' lifestyles with your money. Look at the black folks looking in the projects, and then look how they're going to treat the Afghans that come in here, or the little Chinese that come in here, or the watch how they're going to get treated, and then remember your ass in your country live in the projects. That's your money that they're using. And they'll use your money, your stolen wealth from your ancestors to put these punk ass people on who will then come over here and tell you to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. Just think about that for a minute. And now, after all of that, black folks, on top of all of that, you're being told that immigration is a black issue. Yeah, it is a black issue, but not in the way they're saying. Immigration is a black issue, as in we got to make sure these niggas don't come in here anymore. All of them got to go. We got to kick all these immigrants out like how Ronaldo Ray kicked out niggas in House Party. Like, out, damn spot. I'd love to bust a cap in your high yellow ass. Like, we need to start having everybody go. Everybody gotta go. And I said this last episode, and this is especially for you African immigrants. This is especially for you Caribbean immigrants. Because you guys was talking big shit. Big shit. Fuck up plays toilet bowl big shit, right? I told y'all last time when I was on the Black American podcast with Kobe Smith. Shout out to Kobe Smith. The consistent message that I would get from Africans for why they act so funny towards us is because they feel like, and rightfully so, because we hadn't established this with them, they felt like this ain't your country. This is the white man's country. And we got to stay on the white man's good side to stay here, not yours. We don't got to check in with you. We don't got to make sure shit's cool with you. We don't got to keep y'all cool with us. We got to keep the white man cool with us. And I say it's cool. Get at me. But look where we are now. Now look, what a difference a day make. All it take is a couple of Haitian immigrants to get their asses whipped, literally. And now we done went from a kata to brada, right? Now all these different groups and then come back to begging us to help support them. And what I want to make sure doesn't happen is, you see, I'm seeing fat bastards like Rotund Martin. I'm seeing them niggas try to make a narrative that, oh, now that this is happening to black folk, look at all the ADOS coming back. Now all of a sudden you care, right? Not necessarily. Yeah, not necessarily like that. Not necessarily like, oh, now we see some black people suffering and our eyes have been opened to how immigration is now a black issue. No, we're decent people. And neither ADOS nor FBA nor America, Descendants of American Chattel Slavery, no black American advocacy group has been cheering on or suggesting for any black people, or really any people, to suffer in the immigration process. And furthermore, we also can see from a mile away that we've never seen this kind of treatment happen to any other groups of immigrants, right? So there's a little bit of a extra sauce on it that we don't like. Nobody wants to see black folks getting beat up by the police. Nobody wants to see black folks getting harmed by the police, American citizen or not. So you can cut that shit out, Roland Martin, because black Americans have been consistent. Black Americans have been, we didn't turn our heads on Botham Jean. We didn't turn our heads on Amadou Diallo. Forgive me if I pronounced it wrong. We didn't turn our heads on any of these people. So you can cut that shit out. In fact, y'all bitch asses begging for black American support is what's been keeping y'all afloat for decades, right? And we've had for too long from foreign black people this comfort with demanding support. The way y'all ask, really the way y'all should ask black Americans for help and support if you're a foreign black, you should be coming to black people with the same respect that Monique had when she came to black folks. I got to give Monique her credit. People try to get on Monique and talk shit about Monique. But to keep it real, when Monique asked for support with the whole Netflix situation, I respect the way she came to the black community. She came at us straight up and just said, hey, look, I need help with this. I'm trying to get this. I think this is unfair. Can y'all please support a sister? I've always been good with us. I never talk shit about us. I love us for real. I respect the way she came out and just said, hey, I straight up need help. Straight up. As opposed to trying to put on this little smoke and mirrors show like the Democratic Party is trying to do. They think they're slick. The whole thing with the whip, like, let's just be honest for a second. Africans, Caribbeans, you niggas be constantly talking shit about us and then get caught up and need our help. I keep bringing this up. I keep bringing up Wi-Fi Gate because it was so poignant. Africans was literally making fun of black Americans being victims of police brutality. Africans, Nigerians, were literally and specifically calling us hashtag babies in an effort to point out that when we get killed by the police, we become hashtags. Like hashtag Eric Garner, hashtag. They were literally making fun and celebrating when the police kill us. That's how big of coons Nigerians are. There's a lot of hate and jealousy coming from Nigeria. It sucks to be number two. Nigeria is like that dude, the naked dude on the couch in Belly. They're just sitting back, just mad and stewing. That's just Nigeria. It's just a place full of hate. And they were fresh off of calling us hashtags. And then a week and a half later, here comes the Stop SARS movement in Nigeria, where it gets revealed that you have a special police force in Nigeria full of Nigerian black-ass police beating you up, killing you, humiliating you, just like you said, only happens to us. And y'all sat there and demanded, not requested like Monique did, respectfully, demanded and expected us to come fighting and bringing awareness for you niggas for some shit that y'all said didn't happen in Africa. Y'all keep trying to sell us this Wakandan wet dream that Africa is this wonderful place where nothing could possibly go wrong, right? Y'all keep trying to sell us this shit like we can't see the dusty roads and fucking flies on your bellies and China putting a dick in your ear. Like we can see how messed up Africa is. And y'all keep trying to sell us this tourist attraction bullshit. And then when you can't hold it in no more and the truth comes out as to how messed up it is over there, Because make no mistake about it, you don't got no excuse in any country in Africa to be getting punked by the minority. You don't got no excuse. You don't got no excuse in Africa to be 80% of the people and you got police beating you up in Africa. Police that don't even got the high-tech technology or resources to really stave off any kind of a riot if a riot broke out. If a riot broke out in Nigeria right now, the Nigerian police wouldn't even be able to do shit but throw some rocks. They barely got enough ammo. There's hundreds of thousands of Nigerians in like Lagos alone. There's millions of people in like Lagos alone. There's not enough bullets for the Nigerian army, let alone the Nigerian police, to be able to stave that off. And you letting a couple of special force niggas punk you to the point to where you're talking about, we need Beyonce. We need Beyonce. We need the black Americans to raise awareness. You want black Americans to raise awareness for some shit going on in a country that we don't live in, that don't nobody care about. Keep it real. Keep it real Nick Nolte with you. You're not even a nigger. You're African. Right? That burns an African soul when you tell them that line from Hotel Rwanda. But keeping it real. So you want us. A minute ago, you was laughing at us for having become a hashtag. And now you're begging us to make your hashtag even noticeable. The whole country of Nigeria, you couldn't create a hashtag big with all of your Burner Boy and your I Hearts Abishola and your Insecures and all that shit that you thought you was quote unquote taking over with. All that shit, you couldn't raise enough awareness for Stop SARS to even match one single Mike Brown hashtag. So you making fun of black Americans for being hashtags, but then also you're jealous because you can't become a proper hashtag. Every time something happens, there's always a why African Americans should blog that comes out. You got goddamn Stop Asian Hate coming out, and they're talking about why black Americans should. You notice Stop Asian Hate became a command at black Americans, like we're the niggas that Asian hate. Black Americans got blamed for a white dude shooting up an Asian hair parlor in Atlanta. They blame niggas for that. They like, why didn't you stop him? Like, what? like, it's so common knowledge, right, that black Americans are supposed to be the Jedi Force in America. That people just expect us to do shit whenever something goes wrong in the country with regards to like inequality. You ever notice that? They'll get mad at us. Like, how dare you not stop that mass shooter? He was so racist. It's your job. Like, nigga, you have police. You have an army. What are you talking about? Why is it the black people's job? Whenever, like, think about it. January 6th, a bunch of white folks went and stormed the Capitol in D.C., stormed the Capitol where riot police are supposed to be. And everybody was looking at black folks like, where were all the black folks at? People really expect us to be the fucking Power Rangers. And the main groups that expect that be the black immigrant groups that come here. So they thought once they got a couple of images of some Haitians and some whips and shit, that black folks were going to come in and storm in and take it from there, right? That was supposed to be the thing that was supposed to rile us up into action. You know, I got to be honest with you. I've seen some corny, obvious demonstrations in my day. I've seen some corny, obvious civil rights throwback demonstrations as recently as this year. I forget the names of a lot of these black congressmen and congresswomen because they're not important and they're not worth remembering. But I'll give you an example. The Democratic Party only knows how to talk to black people through slave terms. And let me give you some examples. Black people, do y'all remember when they tried to drum up interest in the Voting Rights Act issue that was going on this year? And rather than simply, you know, talking to black people about it like they do with white people, they had to have this bullshit demonstration. There was two of them where female black congresswomen and shit were getting arrested for standing in front of the door and chaining themselves to the door. Remember all that bullshit? The only way they feel like they can get us interested in something is to give us old-timey 1960s no justice, no peace imagery. There was no, like, it's not like this was some sort of a protest or demonstration that black people were involved in that was a ground, a grassroots organization uprising that black people were involved in. And in the midst of that, some of our senators and congresswomen that were involved in it got arrested. No, it was a complete fluff piece of a fake demonstration that led immediately to an arrest before black folks even knew what happened. Right? They did it all for a photo op. It was all done for a photo op, and it didn't move the needle at all with the black community or with the nation at large. Didn't move the needle at all. Had no effect on black people because it was completely fake. And I feel that this whole situation with the whips at the border is the same thing. Is a fake demonstration that didn't move the needle with black folks at all. It was some very, very dramatic imagery that shocked niggas at first. Like, damn, they still make whips? But then after the effectiveness, after a few days of the shock wore off, black folks, black Americans have come back to their senses of, yeah, ain't got nothing to do with us. Ain't got nothing to do with us. And it's very obvious when you look at it now. Like, let's just think about this for a second. Is Donald Trump still in office? No. Is Donald Trump still the president? No, he's not the president anymore. The guy who's the president now is the guy that they told us was going to, quote unquote, save the soul of the country, right? Democrats are very good. And I said this last time. They're very good at pretending like they're powerless so that they can get more support. And the whole Democratic shit show always ends up going left the second they actually get power, because then they can't pretend like they're powerless anymore. Joe Biden is the sitting president of the United States of America. Joe Biden has complete and total power, 100% of the say over ICE and over border protection. Joe Biden could tell the people, like, just be real for a minute. Joe Biden has been telling every aspect of border protection, we have sanctuary cities. See, these people, these Haitian immigrants coming in, they're not what you would consider illegal aliens. And this is why I made those two episodes back to back about the Afghan immigrants' treatment versus the Haitian immigrants' treatment. Haitian immigrants trying to come into the country aren't trying to come in to have work visas and all that shit. They're trying to come in under asylum. They're looking for safe harbor. They're trying to come in under asylum. Haitian immigrants are the exact type of person that our immigration situation is created for. They have a perfect reason to come in right now into the country. The goddamn president just got assassinated. There is no government. It's complete and total chaos over there. And we're the ones who did it. But, that's another story. They have a perfect reason to come into the country. But we don't have a use for them. So here come the whips. right? That situation, that scene was specifically called in by the Democratic Party. The intent was to whip black people, figuratively speaking, into a frenzy about immigration so that they can have support for the immigration plans they're about to bring in. Now, keep in mind, I want y'all to think about this for a minute. You got a caravan of niggas that they're trying to let in from other countries. Not the black ones. They're sending those ones right back to Haiti immediately, right? But everybody else who's Hispanic, they're going to let in. At the same time, you have American citizens all across the country that you're about to evict. Now you got bleeding heart compassion for the niggas who aren't your citizens. But the ones who are your citizens, you're about to try to cut off the heat on them going into the wintertime so that they'll leave their apartments. Something's not adding up here. Something's not adding up. And you want to get the black people, you want to get the black vote behind you to be able to do this shit. And black folks ain't falling for it. Sorry, Rotund Martin. You blew it. If you guys would have just sat there and been quiet and let it linger for a little bit, black folks might have been, I don't like seeing nobody getting whipped. But you had to come in chiming in with your comments. And it helped snap black folks back out of it. Because one thing black folks do know, one thing young black folks do know, if niggas like Rotund Martin is for it, I'm against it. If niggas like Don Lemon is for it, I'm against it. Because I don't fuck with those niggas. Y'all should have just been real quiet. I know you guys are trying to prove to white folks that you have influence with the black community, but you're hustling backwards and you're messing up your own bag. Because every time you open your mouth, all you show white folks is how much black folks don't really fuck with you. Stephen A. Smith. But this episode was this episode was about language. And I wanted to use that to parlay into you guys how they play us with these plays on words. We're not BIPOCs. We're black people. We're not people of color. We're not oppressed minorities. None of that shit. Because you notice as soon as the goodies start getting passed out for these groups, then all of a sudden they start saying niggas in the back. So always be niggas. Know that you are niggas. We are niggas. We are black folks. We are black Americans. We care about black American issues. I don't care about LGBTQ issues because LGBTQ XYZ don't care about nigga issues. My care about LGBTQ issues don't go no further than black gays. Black gays. That's it. I don't care about feminist issues. I care about black women. I don't care about family issues. I care about black children. I care about black men. I care about black people. We got to have black political issues. Our shit got to only give a shit about black people. Black taxes, black health, black education, black entertainment, black politics. And it's not just to say that shit to get an afro pick and a black leather jacket and a fist in the air. It's about that your people have serious fucking needs and things that need to be met, and your people have no representation. The next episode is going to be on representation. Just because you got some niggas that look like you in an office don't mean you have representation. The people that look like you in office, are they fighting for the things that are important to you? Or are they fighting for immigration and LGBTQ rights and shit? Then you don't have representation. You have imitation. But this was about plays on words. This was about turns of phrases that are used against us all the time. Officer involved shooting, right? You see, and this is another example I'm using. You see how we weren't slick enough. Black people never ever came up with the phrase defund the police. We would love to, but we know that's what they call a non-starter in the white world. A non-starter with white folks means get the fuck out of here, right? Oh, that's a non-starter, Phil. That means get the fuck out of here, Phil. Man, get out of here with that bull. Don't even come over here with that bullshit because we're not even starting with that. It's a non-starter. Dead on arrival. Black folks knew right off the bat the phrase defund the police doesn't sound like a winner with white folks, right? That sounds like let's have chaos, right? No. That was a phrase invented by the white Democratic Party to turn people off of what niggas was saying. Didn't no nigga come up with defund the police. Niggas came up with fuck the police. That's different. We got to take back our language. We got to start taking over these narratives. Otherwise, we're going to always be doing up or down votes on which one's the lesser of two evils. Or we're going to be doing up or down votes on which non has anything to do, well, non-black issue that we have to vote on that we can get the crumbs from. These groups, these advocacy groups, are fueled by our momentum. Period. If black folks said we stand out of this next election, the Democratic Party wouldn't have a snowball's chance in hell against literally anybody the Republicans put up. Especially in this environment. Joe Biden's got some of the lowest ratings I've seen of a president. His shit's damn near tied with Trump. Joe Biden is on his way to being a one-termer. He might even fuck around and get impeached. Pay attention to the words and the phrases they're using to describe this shit and how they're trying to manipulate us. Signing out.